Welcome back, everybody. We are back with Shoot Style Sessions right here on the Ethos Media Network. Please make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe for all the latest content. We're going to get right into it because we got a lot to cover today. Steve, Eric, what's the deal?
What's the deal?
What's going on, man? Glad to be here.
A lot of wrestling happening this weekend, but before we get into it, I asked y'all both a question earlier this week. My question was, if Stone Cold Steve Austin is Tupac, who is the wrestling Snoop? Who's the wrestling Eminem? Who's the wrestling Lil Wayne? And
okay, I want to go first here, Eric, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So, Shane, I actually wanted to come back with you. Why can't Stone Cold be Biggie?
Why can't Stone Cold be Biggie?
Like honestly, like arguably the GOAT had a prime where he was the best, shorter time, and I don't know. I just felt like mainstream as hell, and like everyone knew about it, even though everyone knew about Tupac too. I don't know. I just think it's up for interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was a few different factors. It was the attitude of anti-authority. You know, Tupac was very anti-authority. Stone Cold very anti-authority. They're both bald dudes with goatees. So literally one is the black version of the other. One's the white version of the other. They both like their alcohol. You know, Tupac raps about Hennessy constantly. Stone Cold, he's got a Steve Weisers. Mainstream success, as you were saying, you know, Stone Cold did expand beyond wrestling. He was in some movies and stuff. He's got his shows on, you know, whatever the channel it is, where he's like Stone Cold's Adventures or whatever. Tupac did the same with movies and stuff like that. So I just think there's a lot of parallels.
Got it.
You know,
you sold me, Shane. Okay, so with that said, we'll keep Stone Cold as Tupac. We're gonna give The Rock the title of Biggie because he was right there as the biggest name and not as in your face as Tupac.
Even stylistically, that fits a lot more. The Versace shirts, the Gucci glasses, that's all Biggie.
That's what I was gonna say. Their styles were like right in cue with each other.
Yeah,
I like that.
It was. And then Snoop Dogg, that's a tough one. Because Snoop Dogg's a laid back, chill, cool motherfucker, man. So
I got one for Snoop.
When I think of
one for Snoop?
Yeah, I got one for Snoop. Rob Van Dam.
Yep, that was my
yeah. I was thinking Jeff Hardy.
So for Jeff Hardy, I was actually going. I was thinking
not
like
the weed,
Uzi
but like
or Wayne or somebody like that for Jeff Hardy.
Okay.
Because the eccentric, you know, the colorful hair, the weird style.
I'd probably go with Wayne because Wayne likes to skateboard too, and so does Jeff.
Yep, that's another good one.
Wow, it's coming together
Rob Van
here.
Dam is Snoop. Yep. Jeff Hardy is Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
The Rock is Biggie. You got another one for Rob Van Dam?
No, I got a good one for Eminem.
Oh, Eminem. Who's Eminem?
CM Punk.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Expand on that. Why is Eminem CM Punk?
Both very, very outspoken in their respective careers. Both stand on the certain principles in the way that they live. So Eminem, obviously, he's been through a lot of trials and tribulations to get to this point to where he's like comfortable now. But like, this is also the guy who, you know, we came up knowing him as saying anything that was on his mind, even if it was going against the grain or not. And if you look at somebody like Punk, that's been Punk's whole career pretty much. Or one of the biggest things in his career, anyway.
That's an excellent comparison. And I'll even throw you one more. After or slightly before, what was it? Relapse?
Eminem, I think so.
Became completely sober. And as we know, CM Punk is straight edge. So there's another one for you.
Yep.
That's good. That's good. That's
a
good
one.
Yeah, that was tight. We're after that.
I'm trying to think of any groups.
I like that comparison we had last week with NWO and Dipset.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Who's DX?
What about the DX? DX.
Mm.
Oh.
That's a hard one. Who is DX? I'm trying to
The
think.
first group that
Maybe.
came to my mind was G Unit.
Okay, go.
I mostly give it down to the branding aspect of it. Like how well they were to market themselves and how well like you knew who either DX or G Unit was synonymous with. So obviously in DX's case, like they did end up having more members like later on and stuff, but you knew who the core founding or the core foundation of it with who was in the group. Same thing with G Unit. G Unit ended up having multiple people in the group later on after they were established, but we still know who the core ones were. So for DX, obviously Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, Jesse James, X-Pac, China. Like that's who you automatically think of. And then for G Unit, you can obviously go 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, Tony Yayo, and then Game at a previous point. So yeah, I think the way that they were just able to really push the branding of themselves with their name, I think it's really synonymous with DX.
I got one.
Go ahead.
I like what Eric laid out there. I would go NWA just because they had the kind of the similar messaging of just fuck authority and we're going to do everything against what you tell us to do just because we want to. And you're not going to do anything about it. And both very, very cool and in and hip at the time that they were doing their thing. And they both had, I think, have aged gracefully as, you know, you look back on, you know, in NWA's case, their music and then, you know, DX's work.
I like that.
I actually like yours more than mine.
I like that. I think both definitely fit. Eric, definitely for your reasons as far as the core group with the expansion and then eventually coming back to what it was.
Right.
So I totally agree with that. NWA, I like that one too. Because of the anti-authority aspects, the we don't give a fuck, we're gonna do and say what we want, and the people are gonna love us for it. So I agree with both of those. I don't have an argument against either. Last one I'll throw out there is leader of Nation of Domination, Farouk, is Talib Kweli. Conscious pro-black, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's not a bad one.
Shout out
That's
Kweli.
funny as hell.
All right, y'all. We're done with the graps and the raps this week. Now let's get into the recap or the review. Actually, no, we're not doing a recap or a review. We're doing predictions actually, because neither of the shows have happened. So tonight we got Saturday night's main event live from Tampa, Florida. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Young
and
Wing
then
Center.
tomorrow we have Double or Nothing right here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Me and my brother will be live in the building for that. It's gonna be a good time. But let's get into tonight's card. Let's see what's happening on Saturday night's main event.
All right. So we got what I think is going to kick off the show. Challenger Logan Paul facing champion Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay. So we got Logan Paul, one of the most famous streamers in the world. Brings a lot of ratings to WWE whenever he's there, but he's not there all the time. And then we have Jey Uso, who I think we've all kind of said on this show, we don't necessarily look at him like a world champion. So yeah, who do we think is going to win this one? I don't know. This could go either way. I think if I'm being comfortable and safe, I'm going to say Jey retains, but what do y'all think?
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I think this is one that we can play it safe on. I think Jay's going to retain. I think this build is basically just kind of a stepping stone to get to the next couple of world title feuds, which in my eyes is probably going to end up being Seth down the line. So I think for right now, to basically give Jey at least a solid win over somebody credible, I think this is why it's here, and you can give it to Jey, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, I agree with Eric there. I think this one's a pretty safe one, at least in my opinion, with Jay winning. I think the match is going to be great. I think it has a chance to be super entertaining. You know, Logan Paul is. I think he's an electric factory anytime he's in the ring. Jay has, I think, been looking a lot better in ring, and I think it'll be a struggle. There could be some fuckery in the match, but I think Jay gets a pin and he beats Logan to retain.
Let's explore that fuckery. What do we see could possibly happen?
Well, I was thinking initially that, you know, maybe we get some Seth and Braun, but they do have a match, and the match will probably be following that match. So now that I kind of think about it, it may not necessarily be from them, but I could see it being someone
One of
that
Logan's
comes in.
people or some dumb shit.
Yeah,
like
one of his
podcast
cronies.
homies.
Yeah.
I could see it being Gunther because they still have that match to because Gunther is facing whoever wins in this match.
Yeah.
I think on what, Monday is that, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
Monday.
I'm pretty sure that's happening on Monday. So yeah.
Or
Yeah, I can see
or the
Gunther
day
getting
after.
involved.
Yeah. I think it might be Monday.
So are we thinking that Gunther helps Jay so that way Jay retains, so that way he can beat Jay for the title, because he's like, I don't care about beating Logan, but Jay, you took that belt from me. I need to take it back from you.
I could see that.
Yeah, me too.
Now, what does that do for Jay? Like, as far as, like, does that change anything for Jay if Gunther has to help him beat Logan?
I mean,
It depends on how it happens.
Okay.
For me, like, the interference can't be it has to be one of those things where it's like not like a super obvious thing. Like, I could see Gunther actually fucking up and helping Jay by mistake when really he was trying to help Logan win. So I
That
can
could
see
work.
it going that way. And then that way you give Jay the out of he's not necessarily cheating to win. And then the other thing that you could do is you could do something to the effect of where Logan cheats first, and then if somehow the interference spot goes awry for Gunther, Jay can just basically be like, well, you cheated first, so I was just making an eye for an eye type thing.
So kind of like the Chris Stat versus Willow match on AEW last week, where it was fair basically the whole time. But then when the interference happened at the end, when Marina came out and, you know, was fucking with Willow, Chris didn't see it, but she was still able to capitalize essentially by mistake. Like, she didn't plan on that, but it was like, oh, well,
Exactly.
me, so got you.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
with regard to this J match and the interference,
Yeah.
I ultimately think we won't see Gunther, at least until maybe the match has been decided and he just does a stare down with who I presume to be Jay, who will be the winner. I don't think he has much interest in breaking this up, because I think Gunther's been, you know, since that that McAfee match, he's kind of been looking way stronger and way more confident. And I think he, in his mindset, is like, whatever one of these jabronis wins this match, I'm gonna beat them.
Yeah. Yeah. So in his mind, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He'll take whoever.
Right.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So we all got Jay winning, potentially through controversial means. All right. What's the next match?
Next match, I think, is going to be. It's gonna probably be. Let's just call challenger Chelsea Green versus champion Zelina Vega for the WWE Women's United States title.
Oh, they got a one-on-one match?
It got added last night on SmackDown.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Per Eric's request 2 days prior.
I did say that. I was like, they don't have any women's match on that card, so that should be the one that they put on there if they do.
Yeah.
So
Chelsea?
yeah.
I think Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree. I think they gave Zelina the title as a feel-good thing for when Alistair came back.
Mm-hmm.
And just as another one of those things to give her a notch under her belt, no pun intended, because she has been there a long time. She's worked really hard. Like, she's definitely had moments where she's gotten over with the crowd. So in my eyes, like they definitely rewarded her with that U.S. belt. Like I said, just to put another cap on her feather. But ultimately, to me, right now, I think that U.S. belt just it deserves to be in Chelsea's hands because everything that she's doing with the her Secret Service and everything like that gimmick is just working too well right now, and I think you run the risk of letting it kind of fall by the wayside a little bit if you don't give the belt back to Chelsea right now. So yeah, that's my reasoning.
I can't really argue with any of that.
Yeah.
As much as I
Yeah, I
like
mean-
Zelina Vega, like I know the crowd doesn't necessarily feel the same. So I, you know, if you're looking at it on the masses level, that makes more sense.
Yeah, like I don't have much to add to what you guys said about, the prediction. I have the same prediction as you guys. I think, Chelsea's just been really entertaining, whether it's been
Mhm.
with the belt or without the belt. And, while she has this team with her, I think it just kind of makes more sense to put the belt on her while she, gets away with it, winning by cheating or doing shady stuff. I agree with what Eric said regarding Zelina. I do have a ton of respect for her as a worker. I, you know, for and I thought WWE was respectful to give her, her flowers per se, for all the hard work she's put in. She's been there for a while now.
Mhm.
And she deserved it. She, she's put in really good work. She has, good matches, and but I just think for whatever reason, she's not super over with the crowd, at least to the level of someone like Chelsea who gets a big reaction for who's perceived to be like a mid-card talent. She kind of gets main girl reactions, and so I think it would be smart to kind of put the belt back on her.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. Um, yeah, shout out to Zelina though, you know, because for sure you've seen the improvement over the years because she's a vet at this point. Like she's damn near like a 20-year vet at this point already, which is crazy because you got to remember it was LAX, right? In TNA era that she was a
Yep.
part of when she was Rosita, I think was her
Yep.
name back then. That was pre 2010, I think. So she's been around for a while. So to see the constant improvement, and I think realistically, her getting married to Aleister Black probably helped because they train together a lot. You know, he's efficient in Muay Thai and things like that. So, yeah, shout out to her. I don't think it's over for her.
No.
Nah, definitely not.
You know, they just have to put her in some more positions to allow her to show her personality off. Because I think when she has those moments backstage, when she's like being the little snappy, hot-headed Latina, I think people do like that.
Yes.
But they don't give her enough of that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I was next.
All right, next, I think what would make sense is you go from that match to I think we're gonna go to Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match.
Okay. I think we all got Drew, right?
Yep.
I'm switching my pick.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've thought about this and I've just kind of tried to figure out, my prediction will be based on who do I think needs this match more. And I just can't reconcile saying that Drew, a guy as established and already believable as a world title contender as Drew McIntyre needs this match more than Damian Priest, especially due to the fact that he beat him on the biggest stage at WrestleMania, clean in the middle of the ring. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, for all we know, like, Drew may win. I did see that on the betting odds. Priest is a very, very, very slight favorite, but that's not why I'm picking him. I just kind of think he needs the win more. If he can beat Drew clean, that gives him a whole ton of cachet. And I really like Eric said, months ago, I don't count his kind of fake victories against Drew when he was preoccupied with Punk coming to the ring every time. Like this really would be his first legit face-to-face win over Drew. So I might as well go against the grain and pick Priest here.
I'm not mad at that at all. Not
Yeah, I mean, I
whatsoever.
agree. I agree with that logic. You know what I mean? Like I think I do think Damian needs it more. But I don't know. It's hard to bet against Drew sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. Like,
Yeah.
he's really good. He's entertaining as shit. He's excellent on social media. Like, he hits every box. He can go in the ring. He has the look. Like, Drew is the complete package.
And also, the big thing is like, I think we're all in agreement that Drew's probably one of the guys in the front of the line next, set to face, whether it's Cena or whether it's Jey Uso. He's going to be in a world title picture very soon. So I don't know how it would look if necessarily he lost to Priest, but I could still see WWE's, okay, he lost. Who cares? We're putting him in the world title picture. It's Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, they do
It's
that
like
all the time.
you wouldn't bat an eye.
Nope.
Yeah, and they do that with so many other
the
people
time.
anyway. After they lose, they'll just be in a world title picture anyway. So yeah, I can still see it.
Okay. So two versus one. You guys, the Grams have Drew McIntyre winning, and I got Priest. Okay. We only have a few more matches here.
Huh?
We know what's gonna headline. So the next in line, I think, will be the tag team match. It'll be CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker.
I think Seth and Braun need it because they're the newly established group. So you can't have two singles guys who have opposite goals. Well, the same goal, but that puts them in opposition because they both want to be champion. So that's already sort of the story that they've been telling, like between Sammy and Punk, like, yo, we're going to get along, but we both know we're trying to go for the. So that's going to be a thing. Whereas Seth and Braun are on the same team. They're aligned. They have the same goals. So just from that perspective, it should be Seth and Braun. And then also, like I said, because they're a newly established group, so you want them to, be seen as a credible threat.
Yeah. I mean, so I think we're all in agreement here about who we think's going to win. Like, to be clear, I think that Seth and Braun need the win. They're getting established as a monster team with goals of winning big belts and championships, and it makes sense that they'll win. Now, I think the better question that we can interloop here is, how do they win? What's going to happen? Because there's a lot of smoke about maybe someone that's going to turn. And I do think it's going to happen. I really do think that Sami Zayn is going to turn on CM Punk.
Yeah. Finally get
What do we
Sammy
think?
after all these years. I think that would make it more interesting.
That's probably the
that would
hardest
definitely
thing
make it
for
more
me to
interesting.
call on this one. I don't know if Sammy is turning heel yet. That's a really hard one for me to choose right now because of how over he's been as a babyface the past couple of years. I think I don't want to say you necessarily run any type of like major risk with turning him heel because it has been a while. So we can revisit that character again, and the motivations are totally different than they were when Sammy was a heel before. But I just don't know if we do that yet without getting to some of the stuff that could happen with Jey and Sammy yet. I don't know if you necessarily turn Sammy now while all that stuff is still going on. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I have him turning tonight, but I can see it happening at some point this year though.
Tonight might be the catalyst that makes him decide later to join up with them too. I could see that. Like if it's like they just straight up lose, you know what I mean? Sammy and Punk, then Sammy starts looking, especially if Punk eats the pin, or if Sammy is in a position to where he feels like Punk should have helped him and he didn't, or something like that. Like there could be something to where Sammy is looking at Punk sideways at the end of the match, and that is almost the catalyst, like the jump off point for his heel turn. So I don't know if it fully happens tonight. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of both of y'all. Like I think he does eventually turn heel and join with Seth and Braun. I just don't know if the completion of that happens tonight. I think tonight is probably the beginning of it.
Okay.
So I think that's where I'm going with it.
I think I'm going full
I'm
turn.
on side more with that too.
I think I'm going to go full turn. I think that, WWE and TKO like to capitalize on big spots. I mean, they're going to be on
They do.
NBC. This is as big a spot as you're going to get beyond your Mania and your SummerSlam and your Royal Rumble. But I do think Sammy, I don't know if he necessarily shakes the hand of all of them tonight, but I think he does do the turn.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe
All
he
right,
doesn't
so-
officially join tonight, but he's sort of making it known, like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm available if y'all need me, and maybe
Yeah.
that builds somewhere. But the actual turn does happen tonight.
I think so.
Okay.
All right.
Now that brings us to our main event. I did not think that this would be reality. If you asked me a few weeks ago, but I couldn't be happier because of it. We have R-Truth facing the WWE Undisputed Champion John Cena in a non-title match.
Ron the Truth Killings.
What's up?
It's your time to shine, baby. It is
Yeah,
your
Ron
time
Killings
to
came
shine.
out on SmackDown yesterday. That wasn't R-Truth. That was Ron Killings speaking from the
That
heart.
was
right
Ron
there.
Truth.
Yeah, right, Ron Truth. It was a slight mix, He had a little bit of comedy, but it was mostly, I'm saying some real shit to you right now, John. So I really like that promo.
Me too.
I think we got R-Truth winning, right?
I think R-Truth's gonna win by a roll up, and I think it's gonna be the return of Cody Rhodes to distract John Cena.
Oh yeah, it's got to be a roll up. It's got to be a roll up.
It's got to be
makes
the
sense.
roll up.
Now, R-Truth needs to be beating Cena with the 5 moves of doom, the 5 knuckle shuffle, and an AA. That's
He should hit
really
him with
how
the
he should
belt
be.
too.
That would be fine. Yeah, and hit him with the belt.
Yeah.
Do everything that Cena does. That would be amazing.
Yep. It was great
I
though.
think it's
Like,
going to be an entertaining match, though. I think they'll probably do some smoke and mirror, spotty type shit, some table bumps, maybe a spear through the guardrail. They're going to do that type of shit to make it entertaining. I think it's going to be fun, though, especially because R-Truth can go still at 50
I think
whatever
it's gonna
years
be
old.
great. I think it's going to be great. And I know you guys probably know this, but for anyone who doesn't, when John Cena, went to go schedule, his, 2025, retirement tour, if you will, and dates, he got a chance to handpick his opponents. And, obviously we've already seen a few of them. We have Cody Rhodes that he beat to become 17-time world champ. He obviously Randy Orton in his hometown, which, these are all guys that are staples somewhat in John Cena's career. And it's really cool that John put something on the floor with R-Truth, because R-Truth has been a staple of John's career from the beginning. They were around at the same time 20 years ago. They've always been friends. And they've always had segments together. It's not like this thing where WWE's grasping at straws here to try to throw a connection. There's a real legitimate connection. And I thought that R-Truth's promo yesterday stole the show and basically setting the table as to why he wants to fight John Cena. His basic argument was, I don't know who this guy is. He's not the John Cena I know, and I'm going to beat his 3 pillars of hustle, loyalty, and respect into him. And it got the crowd really hype. And I think this match is something that I'm looking forward to.
Definitely. 100%.
Steve,
Yeah,
you
man, like the
mentioned it
more
earlier.
Oh, go ahead.
The Cody Rhodes possibly returning tonight. Are we saying that's probably
I think
the
so.
consensus?
I definitely think we'll see Cody at the end of the show tonight, and
I think that's a good
possibly
shout.
cost Cena.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
I agree.
One thing I want to give Triple H credit for in his booking since he's taken over the creative of WWE is R-Truth has been getting so many more looks that are just fire. You know what I mean? Like he had his WrestleMania moment. He's been on, because you got to remember, like before Triple H took over, R-Truth wasn't even on TV like that. Like every now and then he'd pop out, do a funny segment, and be back in catering for months. You know what I mean? And he'd pop back out at the end of the year, do something silly, and disappear again. Since Triple H has taken over, R-Truth has been on TV damn near every week.
And it makes sense because when you see R-Truth, here's the big thing where I think justifies someone being on TV, if not every week, then mostly every week. Are they popular? Meaning, like when they come out and you hear their entrance music, does the crowd react? whether they react negatively or positively or both, the crowd always reacts to R-Truth because they know him, they know his name, he's established, he's always been in a great communication with the fans. Can he work? Yes, he can work
100%.
with the best of them. His work is as timeless as his character has been. He's basically a litmus test. Like, if you can't have a good match with R-Truth, then you can't really have a good match, because R-Truth can get the most out of anyone. And I think that's why I'm almost thankful that, he never really, even though that Vince wasn't using him, that he never got fired, because Triple H is getting what you want to see out of him. Like, R-Truth is a compelling, interesting character. It doesn't mean that he needs to be world champ. He's had his, prime where he's competed for titles, even though I thought he should have been probably more prevalent, 10 years ago, but he still got value, and you're seeing it right now.
R-Truth to me is Pinky from Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean when I say that, right? So if you listen to the theme song of Pinky and the Brain, right, it says one is a genius, the other's insane, right? Now, if you pay attention to the show landscape, the Brain is always doing plans. Pinky is always the one telling him, hey, I don't think that's going to work for reasons X, Y, Z. The Brain tells him, shut the fuck up. He does the plan and it blows up in his face, right? The theme song doesn't say one's a genius and one's stupid. It says one's a genius and the other's insane, right?
Yep.
That implies to me that the Brain is insane and Pinky's genius. But he's like one of those geniuses that aren't obviously a genius because he plays dumb. You know what I mean? That's R-Truth to me. R-Truth is playing dumb. But if you notice, a lot of what he was doing, like when he was tagging with The Miz and stuff, it would seem stupid in the moment, but it would actually lead to something that benefited them both. Even if Miz didn't see it in the moment, he'd be like, what is this idiot doing? Why would you do this? And then all of a sudden it worked out and it was all Truth's idea. I'm like, R-Truth is secretly a genius who plays the role of an idiot to get over on people.
I thought, great point, Shane. I thought his work with Judgment Day and trying to be in was some of the funniest things that I've ever seen.
Yes.
It was compelling.
I was just about to bring that up.
He actually got like a lot out of Priest there, when like at first when I was like, what do they have with Priest? You kind of started seeing it when Truth was trying to get in the group, and Priest was kind of like torn because he on a personal level probably wanted him to be in the group, but just knew that he had to save face for Rhea and the rest of the group and kick him out. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
that's
that was
why
when
it was
I really
so funny.
Started to like Damien around
That's
that
why it
time,
was so
because
funny
like you
when
said, it
Truth-
started to show a little bit more of his personality. He was laughing on camera. He's joking back and forth with Truth. The money segment when he was like, "Oh shit, no, you're in. Don't worry about it. Like you're good." Like, you know what I mean? All of that. I was like, I like this Priest. So, and Truth brought that out of him.
That's
Go
why
ahead,
it was
you
so
was about to
funny
say
when
something.
Truth got moved to SmackDown. Or no, sorry, when I don't know which way it was, if it was Damien who got moved first or R-Truth. But I just remember the segment like it was like the introduction of them to SmackDown, and R-Truth walked up like, "What's up, bro? Where you been?" And Damien was looking, I'm like, "Oh, this motherfucker."
on an aside with Truth, what was that segment? Not this past Royal Rumble, but the last one where like he entered the ring and then he went back to the background and talked to Pierce. What did he say to Pierce? That was the funniest thing I remember. It was so funny.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember exactly what he said. That shit was hilarious, though.
I'll look it up later. It's so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch that match tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun one.
R-Truth is good, man. Cena's, I think a lot of people are kind of down on his heel turn because of how it started, with The Rock being involved and then him basically disappearing and all that stuff. But I think if you take that into account and then look at everything Cena's been doing since, I think his heel work with what he's been, the circumstances and everything, he's actually done very well.
I love it.
Now, granted, we are in this weird era where heels get cheered and baby faces get booed. So now Cena's getting the reactions he probably wanted his whole career because he's being a heel, which is interesting. But he's definitely getting, he's getting reactions, and people are looking forward to his matches. They want to see who's going to take the title off of him. So I think it's working, even despite all the internet complaints.
I agree with you, Shane.
Yep, right here with you.
All right.
Right here
Well,
with
that's
you.
tonight. That's tonight. And you know, for those of you who have been watching the show, you know that our predictions are typically on point. So, you know, let's see if we continue our streak.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, we've got Double or Nothing, AEW. Eric, you got the list?
I do.
Hit me with the first match.
Am I off camera now when I do this or no?
Nope.
Okay, sweet.
I see you.
Okay. All right, like I said before, this is one of the shorter AEW cards that I've seen in quite a long time. However, as Shane pointed out, we do have to keep in mind that Anarchy in the Arena is also happening, so that is probably going to be a very lengthy match. But to start, we can go with the first match on the card, which is listed as a stretcher match between Ricochet and Mark Briscoe.
I mean, I got Ricochet winning that just because Mark Briscoe's singles push happens more in Ring of Honor. On AEW, he's more of a team guy, more of a group guy. So he can take those singles losses, whereas they're clearly building Ricochet. You know, his heel character is, you know, very popular in AEW. He's featured on TV every week. He's usually having one of the top 3 matches of the night. The character work, you know, his like fake Andrew Tate, you know, wearing hats all the time because the crowd calls him bald and he doesn't want to acknowledge that he's actually bald. Like, you know, so he's mixing funny and like just being an asshole. And I think the crowd has been appreciating that. So I think they want to keep that momentum going. And we'll see Ricochet take the win here.
I agree. Steve said something to me actually, no, he said it to both of us in the chat the other day, which is that it kind of piggybacking off of what you said. It seems like Mark Briscoe only really wins when he's on teams with people or if he's being featured in Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. For his singles push, I think we kind of saw the peak of that maybe last year. And now that they've brought in Ricochet, Ricochet is probably going to go over. I really like Mark, so I think that he does deserve more down the line. But I think right now, if you want to continue to establish Ricochet as a new heel on the roster, then you want to kind of try to set him up so that down the line he can start to win championships. Because right now, that's the other thing. Ricochet hasn't been in a title picture really, except for maybe against Kenny when Kenny was
international title.
Yeah. Against him for the international title. So that's really the only one so far. But other than that, I think if you want Ricochet to be a contender for a title down the line, then I think he should probably win this.
Yeah.
And I do have him winning.
I'll go with Ricochet as well. I think, you know, kind of what Eric said, if you're trying to establish Ricochet as a serious contender for any sort of belt. I can't keep up with the belts in AEW, guys. I'm more of a casual, and I'm trying to get more acquainted. So forgive me for whatever belt he'll be going into. But overall, I think Ricochet is going to win. Yeah, I don't remember seeing like Mark Briscoe like winning an AEW TV match. And you know, whatever the reasons are, I don't know. But I mean, Mark Briscoe can work, and the match I think is going to be probably one of the better quality wrestling matches of the night.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Too.
So
yeah, I think Mark will get his shine at some point. You know, he was I would say the peak of his singles run in AEW so far was when he was Ring of Honor World Champion. When he was Ring of Honor World Champion, he was winning on TV. Once he dropped the belt, I think it was Jericho that beat him, right? Was Jericho that took the belt from him? After that was kind of when the AEW TV losses started. So I think they'll bring that back around at some point for sure. What's next, Eric?
Tag team match. No titles on the line because nobody has belts in this match. This is FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler with new manager Stokely versus Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. This is a real easy one for me. I got FTR winning.
Yeah.
Same reason,
murder those guys.
Yeah, same reason as we mentioned for when we were talking about the Seth and Braun match. FTR just turned heel. They have a newly established heel manager. So in this case, you don't want to beat them after they just turned and after they're reestablishing themselves. Because to me, right now, I think that if you're needing a tag team scene to do a little bit better in AEW, you can just look right at FTR and they can be the next contenders for the championships. Especially now, and we'll talk about it later, with the new interesting dynamics with MJF being a part of that group. MJF also has history with FTR, so that story could be really interesting if they tell that the right way. So yeah, with all that being said, I got FTR winning.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree. Now, what I do think that we mentioned before that could apply now, also, like with the Sammy CM Punk situation, I think Daniel Garcia is the Sammy of this match. I think there's a chance he turns on Nigel McGuinness, joins up with FTR, because that's been kind of a thing that they've been telling over the last few months as well. Like they had a connection, but then Daniel just didn't like the way FTR was moving, so he separated himself. But FTR's been trying to get him back in the fold, sort of, so I could see that happening. Plus, a heel Daniel Garcia would be pretty interesting right now.
It would, and I think he kind of needs that because his TNT title run didn't move the needle or do anything really.
No.
Like, it was a good moment for him to beat Jack Perry because everyone was kind of getting sick of Jack too. Mm-hmm. But as far as Daniel goes, yeah, he didn't really do anything to move the needle with that belt. So yeah, I think turning him heel could probably be the best thing for his character at the moment.
I think that's the worst book title in AEW. In the whole
TNT title,
the TNT title.
It's not good.
Yeah, they've historically not booked that belt well. The only time they had a good reign was, who was the champ? Samoa Joe. When Samoa Joe had it, and he was also the Ring of Honor TV champ, and he was calling himself like the king of TV, that was the best time for the TBS title.
Yeah.
TNT
agreed.
title, sorry.
So my prediction is going to be FTR's, because I know that they turned heel recently on Edge or Cope or whatever he's getting called these days.
Adam Cole. I'm calling him his full name. Fuck that. That's so stupid.
So I know that they have Stokely Hathaway as their new manager, and you want to make an entrance. On an unrelated note, wasn't Nigel McGuinness doing commentary for a while?
Yeah, he's still on commentary.
Okay, so he's just okay. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking FTR.
Yeah, it's a one-off. Nigel, the reason that he's involved is because FTR kept fucking with Tony Schiavone. And so Nigel stood up for Tony. It's almost the same as the Pat McAfee.
They did the Gunther Pat McAfee.
Yeah, it's almost the exact same story, but a tag team instead of a singles match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically that. But yeah, FTR's got this with 80s drug dealer Big Stoke as their manager. I love the fact that he's wearing 80s jogging suits to the ring every week. That just makes me laugh.
Yeah, he just looks like a drug dealer, so that shit is hilarious. Next match, this is for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. We have the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, with MVP and now MJF. And they are facing the Sons of Texas, which is Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara.
Guevara.
This is another easy pick for me. I have Hurt Syndicate winning.
Yes.
MJF just joined them, so that story is going to continue to blossom into what it is right now. Currently, my favorite story in AEW at the moment, just because I love all these guys and I love everything that they're doing with just this forming of the group and everything. So yeah, easy pick for me. Hurt Syndicate. It ain't time for them to lose those belts yet.
Yeah,
correct.
Hurt Syndicate are gonna win. The Sons of Texas are gonna be the sons of losers after this match. I'm excited to see how MJF acts in this match, just to see how he goes about this whole thing. He's recently been introduced as an official member of the Hurt Syndicate, and we'll see if he hurts people tonight.
I think he's gonna hurt some people, and the fun thing about MJF is how excited he was when they finally
jumped into Bobby's arms.
Bobby had to push him off, like, get off me.
I was like, get off
what are
me,
you
bro.
doing?
Like, we're not
That was
tight
so
like
good.
that.
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, the Hurt Syndicate wins. I realistically don't see them losing the titles until Buddy Matthews comes back. I think Hounds of Hell will be the ones to beat them. Just because in my mind, they are realistically the only team that looks even comparable to them. You know what I mean? Like, who was the guys that they just fought from Ring of Honor? The Samoan dude and the African dude. What's their tag team name?
Their tag team name, but I know who you're talking about.
Gates of Agony.
Yeah.
They're good as well. And I think eventually they could be made to be a contender. But because most of their work has been in Ring of Honor so far, that would almost be like an NXT team coming up right now and just beating the New Day. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not realistic. You know what I mean? So I think they need a little bit more time to build and then they can be a serious contender. But I think right now, the only contenders are Hounds of Hell, and you got to wait for Buddy to come back. So I think Hurt Business are going to keep those belts for a while, I think, especially now that they got MJF in the fold. Because the whole thing is, I'm going to help you guys keep those tag belts if you help me win the world title.
Yep.
So,
and that's going to be the interesting part down the road, to see if they actually do help him win the title back. That's going to be the interesting story there.
And I'm wondering also if, because the whole thing is business, remember, like, it's not friends. They're being very clear. This is a business relationship. We're not friends. You're only friends with MVP. The rest of us are your business associates. So I'm wondering if, like, part of the deal is that will be revealed later. Because remember, MJF had a contract as well. Like, he actually had the lawyer, Mark Sterling, actually, like, look it over. And MVP was like, what are you doing that for? And he was like, well, you said this is business, so I'm just going to have my lawyer. And MVP was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm wondering if there's like a clause somewhere where it's like, if we help you win that world title, you have to give a shot to Bobby.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or you have to give a shot to Shelton. You know, something like that, like, to where, you know, so I'm curious where this goes. But I like,
well, you know that slime ball MJF's gonna have something up his sleeve in the long run here. He always does. MJF is always about one person, and it's MJF.
Of course, which is why Mark Sterling being his lawyer makes all the sense in the world. You know what I mean?
Smart Mark Sterling.
Smart Mark. That's right. All right, Eric, what's next?
Next, we have for the AEW Continental Championship, Kazuchika Okada versus Speedball Mike Bailey. This is another quick one for me. I will say Kazuchika is going to retain because they're going to do the title merger at All In down the line between him and Kenny. I've been saying this for months. We know that that's the direction they're going in. So
everyone, that's pretty much everybody. They think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
because like you said, there's already too many belts. If you want to put focus on, for example, their TV title, which is the TBS title, then you got to get rid of one of those other mid-card belts. You can't have 3 mid-card belts for one division for just the men. You know what I mean? Continental, International, and TNT. Those are all mid-card belts. So,
it's like that's a lot.
That's a lot. You know, that's almost like in the Attitude Era when they had the hardcore belt, the European belt, the Intercontinental, and the
light heavyweight.
And the light heavyweight. Right. So it's like, all right, what are we, you know, or when they combined with WCW and there was 2 world champs, 2 sets of tag, like basically the structure it is now. But with WCW and WWE belts, it's like, how can you have 2 champions of the world? Like, there can only be one. So
it's like we're muddying up the waters too much here.
Yeah. Like, even the way they separate it out now makes sense. Like, there are champions of WWE and there are champions of the world. It's like, that makes sense. You know what I mean? So go ahead, Steve. You was about to say something.
No, I was just going to give my prediction based off what I've seen. I mean, I'm not a huge Okada fan. However, I see how he's booked. And even though Mike Bailey's been pretty, interesting in terms of his matches lately, I don't see Okada losing this title.
Nah. Speedball Mike Bailey reminds me, and I'm going to use a very specific name here, so hopefully y'all know what I'm saying. Speedball Mike Bailey reminds me of the 1-2-3 Kid. Not
Yeah,
Six,
not X Pac, but
not X Pac, not Sean Waltman, not none of the later stuff. The 1-2-3 Kid, strictly the one who beat Razor. That's who Speedball reminds me of.
I could see why you would say that, actually.
Like, even style wise, like, you know, because 1-2-3 Kid, he was supposed to, because remember, he used to come to the ring in a gi and stuff like that. He used to be martial arts guy. That was like part of his gimmick, was that he was a martial arts kid. So Speedball, kind of the same thing, you know. So they remind me a lot of each other.
I can see that.
Speedball just could never become X Pac like Sean Waltman could. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see Speedball being he doesn't have that evil in him, or that you know what I mean?
Nah, his smile is way too goody two shoes to ever turn into that.
Yeah, he's like a Rey Mysterio type. I think he'll be a lifelong babyface.
Yeah. Next, for the AEW Women's World Championship, the champion, Timeless Toni Storm, with Luther versus Mina Shirakawa. This is probably the match I'm probably looking at this match probably the second most out of everything on the card currently. I have Toni Storm winning because I have her facing the winner of the Owen Hart Women's Cup final, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, I have Toni Storm winning. She's basically shown me nothing to show that she would actually lose that title anytime soon.
I'm of two minds here. The first is what you said. I think Toni wins because I ultimately think Jamie Hayter wins the tournament. That makes the most story sense. Toni took the belt from Jamie and injured her. So Jamie wants to get her get back. It's going to be in the UK where they're both, or where she's from. So all of that kind of lines up for it to be Jamie versus Toni. The one holdout I have is we don't know what's up with Mariah May yet. Like, she could be going to the Fed. She could still be with AEW. She's posting pictures constantly of AEW shit all the time. Mina just signed. That's her shoot best friend. You know what I mean? So in that situation, I could see Mina winning against Toni, and then Mariah comes out to confront her at the end. So it ultimately depends on what Mariah is doing. If she's still with AEW, I could see Mina winning. If she's actually leaving and going to WWE, I think Toni's keeping it.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to go with Toni Storm to win, because it seems very much like Mariah May's going to WWE, just from the tea leaves and how I'm reading it. Even with her posts, like, if you haven't seen her in this long a time, I think there's a reason why.
And another thing I noticed, and Eric, I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were doing the video package to hype up the Toni versus Mina match, all of the scenes with Mariah May, they made sure they didn't show her face, and they never mentioned her name. They would just say, we had a distraction last time we met up with each other, but now it's just you and I. They wouldn't mention who the distraction was, though. So I was like, that seems a little like she's leaving.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, I say that could also be a setup to make us think that, so that way it's a surprise if she comes back tomorrow. So either way is possible. You know, when wrestlers are being quiet about what their moves are and stuff, all we can do is speculate. So I could see it going either way, though, realistically. But if there's no Mariah, Toni's keeping it. If there is Mariah, that highly increases chances of Mina winning. And not because of cheating, just story-wise.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
That's my opinion.
What do we got next, E?
We got 3 more matches left. Anarchy in the Arena. So this is
holy hell.
So this is the Death Riders and the Young Bucks teaming up against Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, consisting of Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs.
It's gonna be so fire.
I have the baby faces winning this, and by the baby faces I mean Kenny, Omega, and friends.
Yes.
Yeah,
I do too. I don't see the Elite Riders winning this one. I think they're finally turning the page on this story, which was on a fucking hamster wheel for months. And me, as the AEW mark that I am, could not stand the Death Rider story. And I was super pissed in LA when I was at the show at Revolution when Swerve lost. I was tripping in the Discord. But then Dynamite came, The next Dynamite came and the story started moving. And I was like, okay. So maybe that was the holdup because the Bucks were gone. We had to wait for them to come back so that way we could get this thing going again. Because now I'm not bored with it anymore. Now I'm actually looking forward to who's going to beat Mox. It's not well, somebody hurry up and beat Mox already? Fuck. It's more like a damn, I wonder who it's going to be. Like they got it back to that, I think. So, because I will totally agree that the world title scene for a solid probably 6 months was terrible and boring. It was the same ending to every match, all that shit. So, I'm looking forward to this. I definitely think that the baby faces are going to win because they have to start that catalyst to Moxley looking not invincible. You know what I mean? Like he has this aura of like invincibility about him sort of because he's had the belt for so long. But then the Death Riders beat them for the trio. So that was the start of it. Like, oh shit, like he can lose, you know what I mean? So now I think if they lose Anarchy in the arena, especially if he is the one to give up, because that's the rule. Like you have to give up on behalf of your team, basically. So, or no. That's the cage match I'm thinking of. Anarchy in the arena, I think, is just a straight up pin. But if Moxley eats the pin, that contributes to the story even more of like, oh shit, people can beat him. He's lost twice now. What's up? And then that inevitably leads to either Will Ospreay or Hangman defeating him at All In.
Yep. And shout out to Samoa Joe for continuing to elevate anything that he puts himself into.
I agree with Eric, and shout out to the Ops. I think it's the coolest group in the promotion. Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata are absolute dogs, and I'm hoping to see Samoa Joe get the pin. But I think their team, along with Omega, Swerve, and Willow, are going to get the win.
Yeah, I also think Hook returns tonight. And the reason I say that is because the Death Riders have Gabe Kidd from New Japan on their side, even though he's not part of the match officially, but he's aligned himself with them. So I think this is when we see Hook come back to neutralize him because he's been injured for the last few weeks. And that's when Hobbs came in. So I could see that being how that plays out too. But I ultimately agree. I think Kenny, Swerve, Willow, and the gang are going to win.
Yep. All right. The Owen Hart Women's Tournament Final. Winner gets a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship match at All In Texas. Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter. I will go first out on the limb. I have been saying this for the past couple of weeks. I love Jamie Hayter to death, and I really want her to win this match. However, until I see Mercedes Moné lose a one-on-one, I will not bet against her. So I am picking Mercedes.
Yep, I'll be piggybacking. I don't think Mercedes Moné is ever going to lose in AEW. That's probably written into her contract. I'll go ahead and pick Mercedes Moné, even though on a personal level, I definitely think if there was any sense here, it makes more sense for a storyline if Jamie Hayter wins for a multitude of reasons.
Yep, and that's why I'm going with Jamie.
All right.
I think Jamie winning makes way more sense. Because one, this isn't a title match. This is a tournament final match. So if Mercedes loses, she still keeps the TBS title. So it doesn't affect her in that way. And then two, again, with everything we said about Jamie and Tony, their whole history, with Jamie being the champion, Tony defeating her for the title, also in kayfabe injuring her. She was actually already hurt, but in kayfabe, Tony's the reason she was injured. So they have a story. And then All In, or is it All Out? One of those two is in the UK. So whichever one is in the UK, I think that's when we see Jamie take the belt back from Tony. So to me, yeah, it kind of has to be Jamie.
Boy, I hope you're right about that. And then the main event.
Well, real quick, I just want to, one other thing about that, just to expand on the Mercedes point, is because she has beef with other people in other promotions also right now. Like she's got that feud with AZM Azumi, who beat her for the New Japan title. So they're beefing still. The Rev Pro, whoever's going after that title, like she's still got issues over there, and the TBS title. So she has 3 promotions right now that she has feuds going in. So I think a loss here doesn't really affect her stock in any type of way. Because she's already got so much other shit going. So just wanted to add that in.
Got you.
But go ahead, Eric. Main event.
Yep, main event for the Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament Final. Winner gets an AEW World Championship match at All In. Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page.
This is probably the toughest match for me to call.
Yeah.
Me too.
Um,
If you're asking me right now, I'm probably going with Will.
I think I'm going with Hangman Adam Page.
I think story-wise, it makes more sense if it's Hangman.
This is going to be a tough one. I think both of them, I said this to Steve last night, I think both of their promos that they did on Wednesday it's been some of their best mic work, especially from Will. Hangman's kind of already shown that he can do that. He can step into that lane when a story is really good enough. But I think Will is really showing that like he can step out on his own and cut a really good promo when it's a match that of this big of a magnitude. So I'm excited for it. Shane, I think I agree with you. Storyline wise, it would make more sense for Adam Page to win, but I think AEW really wants to crown Will with that top prize because of all the work he's been doing the past year or so. So I think for that reason alone, I'm going to give it to Will.
That's why it's a toss-up for me, because I feel like, yes, Will has, in the time he's been there, become one of the top 3 probably most over people in the company. Him, Swerve, and, on the men's side, him, Swerve, and, name somebody else, whatever.
Penny.
Sure, but so he's done that. But at the same time, I think Hangman is like, when you think AEW, you think Hangman. Kind of like in the Attitude Era, you think WWE Stone Cold. In the Ruthless Aggression, you think WWE Cena. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, whoever.
Yeah.
Like, I think right now, that's AEW Hangman. Like, I think he's sort of established himself as that guy. He's like, for the lack of a better term, the heart of AEW. So
Yeah.
So that's what makes it hard, because if you're telling that story of we're trying to defend AEW from the Death Riders, then that's Hangman. But if you want to crown Will Ospreay for, just being a beast, then that works too. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. It could go either way.
You gotta
Yeah,
pick
Ken.
it. You gotta pick it.
Gotta pick.
Yeah.
I'm going Hangman.
All right.
All right. We have 2 full wrestling shows. One today, one tomorrow. It's going to be a busy weekend, but yeah, we are we here for it. So just make sure you check out all the predictions below. Let us know which ones we got right. Let us know which ones we got wrong. And yeah, that's about all we got this week.
That's what we got for y'all. Steve, Eric, appreciate y'all. We will be back next week to talk about all the stuff that happened after tomorrow. And we'll bring back some more graps and raps, courtesy of Shoot Style Sessions. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe. Till next time. Peace.